But no, Beth, your goes crashing down. Determination, the suffering, the ability to... And she's unleashed everything in this attack. See just how much that win means to him. All the marbles. Kayla versus Allison, and to the line. Kayla Laguna takes the victory.
Hey everyone, and welcome to CVRcade World Cup Racing Bracket Season. Session is underway. We have 4 great races in tonight's Omnium. We did see the races play out in earlier zones today, in K, in L, and if tonight is going to be any reflection of what we saw earlier, it's going to be insane because we have Modi, we have Daniel, the Cognition riders have come out, we have Aaron, we have Jennifer, we have Casey, Kayla, Frank, we have a lot of big guns in the race tonight, and we are going to see how this unfolds and what they bring. We saw them on Tuesday night with all kinds of different tactics, and tonight with just over 2.5 minutes to go, we're going to start out on Kayla's mountain bike course. You can see them warming up. Here's Louise in the pen here, warming up. He also is Team Cognition rider here. We have Quantum Shift as an ability. We have Uncrashable as an ability. We have Corner Caper as an ability, and we have One Comeback Kid. And so let's see, we've got Casey there on the screen. Casey, I know you were handling a little bit of a mechanical before we started. You got your gear all sorted?
I think we're all good. Yeah, new kicker, so had to get the shifting right and the cassette right, but I think we're ready to go.
Awesome. Well, what are we going to see here as on our first low skill event here, Quantum Shift Uncrashable? You've seen to sort of figure out the timing of the sprint on this course. How do you like your chances?
We'll see what the legs have in them. It was a 6-week PR for about 30-second or 45-second power in the earlier event to win this one. So you got to go deep at the end to get there. I'm not sure if I got that in me again.
Well, you are racing multiple zones, and it's absolutely crazy town. Thank you for coming out tonight. You can see the replay here from early in the day where Quentin and Casey go toe-to-toe here on the finish of this very course here. So he does have that practice in his legs. You can see him executing that with Quentin trying to catch up with that kid and never closes it down. Well, good luck to you. I'm glad you've got your mechanical all set and sorted. We've also got Jenna in the mix here, Jenna Garcia, who was working with Casey on Tuesday night. Do you think we're going to see another coalition with your friend Casey tonight?
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I have a lot of people in tonight's race that will probably be on each other's sides, including Casey, and then my dad and mom are in, and Aaron is in as well. So if we can get a thing going against the other teams, it might be something good.
All right, well, CVRcade stacking it against maybe Cognition, but we know we've got just under 50 seconds. Good luck to you. We've got Modi Pakelny and Louise, both from Team Cognition, and Daniel also in the mix. Just over 30 seconds to go. It looks like he's talking to his teammate. We won't force him to talk. Louise has got his headphones on, got some tunes, listening to the race, and we saw some amazing teamwork from these Cognition riders. So in just under more great fireworks tonight. But in this first event of the night, mountain bike by Kayla, it is a low skill event, meaning that Quantum Shift, they'll phase through each other. They can't crash in corners. So it's kind of like a training wheel race, but not really, because it's harder than you might think. Just because it's low skill doesn't mean it's no skill. 5 seconds to go. Right now, they're all in the pen. You can see them spinning up, and they're trying to get all those powers to the wheel as they come out of the gate. And they are digging in. You can see in that first 10 seconds that they do have a Quantum Shift, and it will be throughout the race here, they will be able to phase through the riders. And we've got that front group here with Kim and Jennifer and Daniel and Frank, all of those folks making the front. You can see Modi here digging in, making sure he's not left behind. He's just about 2 or 3 seconds. He needs to close down that gap and get that all to come back together like in the last breath. Then he comes right through. He's like, not to be forgotten. Here I come, Daniel. Daniel. Let's do what we did on Tuesday. We're going to work together. Jenna here also digging in, making sure she's not left behind. Aaron flying to the front, not to be dropped. He did say he's feeling a little tired tonight, but looks like he is bringing it. This is a short lap. It's 6 laps. It's just about 3.9 kilometers to go. It does go fast because the dynamics out on course, they tend to, the group moves faster as a pack. Right now, Aaron in the front taking on the wind, Jennifer getting on his wheel, teammates there. So they are going to be working together, but really the name of the game in this race is all staying together. You can see here on the helicopter, on the side view here, this is what the peloton's looking, kind of just all coming together, trading turns on the front. And what happens in this is you have the massive drafting if you're in this peloton, and you can dig in a little bit and you can fade up to the front, and you really need to keep the pedal down, because if you let off and you take on the wind, you start to drop back and you can fly off the back pretty quickly. You can see here Frank in the mix, who was also, I think, doing DS for his daughter, but he's in the race here with Kayla. He's got his daughter, and Kayla dropping comeback kid. You can see that in the nearby riders list there on the side, those extra animations happening. Kim also dropping comeback kid. The way that comeback kid works is if you are off the front of that front group, you can activate comeback kid, and for 45 seconds you'll have extra power until you pass the next rider in front of you. So it is a tool and a technique to make it back. But we've got 2 cognition riders in this front group. We've got Frank, we've got Casey, we've got 3 cognition riders in this front group, along with looks like Aaron has dropped back a little bit. Kayla is still benefiting from that, but 700 equalized watts. She's trying to get herself back. She can see the riders up the way. She's looking focused. She knows that she has to start digging in the pedals before that will wind it down for her and then her power up there. So here we are on board with Casey, who looks pretty relaxed. As Casey mentioned, he did race earlier. He did win this race. You saw the highlight of how he executed it. So he has a little bit of an advantage on when he might want to time the sprint. He has a little bit of an advantage knowing these racers, but he has a little bit disadvantage because his legs might be tired, But one thing you can say about Casey Shum is that he always brings it in the race, no matter how much fatigue settles in. He always turns himself absolutely inside out to put a great show here. You're watching CVRcade Racing. If you're new to watching this type of racing, this is a physical esport. These guys are on trainers, and right here you can see head-to-head Modi and Jennifer, both in that front group here. You can see their different views here, what they're watching, how they're taking in all the information. They have information on their screen about their heart rate, about their competitor's heart rate. And right now on the front, Daniel is trading a little bit of spaces here. You can see their equalized heart rate. Looks like Luis did drop back just by 1 or 2 seconds. He's activating his power up, trying to make his way back to Modi in the front there. Does not want to get caught. He's back on with the group here, but he did start to drop back a little bit. That might have been a move to slingshot to the front. If he slingshot to the front and keep the power on, and maybe Modi can come with him and they can maybe stretch this out. But the dynamics of the pack, I heard Casey say it earlier, the dynamics of the pack might just bring him back. So even if he's giving a little bit of a dig, getting 1 or 2 seconds up the road, even 100 meters, the dynamics of the pack and the draft, it's just going to be, they're moving fast enough to close down that gap. 1 kilometer to go on this short race, first race of the Omnium. CVRcade has 4 races in an Omnium, and each of the races have a multiplier. This one will be scored 1 times points, and basically the next races are 2 time, 2.5 time, 2 time, and it depends on their difficulty, their duration. So all of these factors weigh in, and difficulty doesn't always mean how hard it is technically. It might be how long it is. It might have a number of factors that weigh into those multipliers, so you can have a balance on them. And have we seen 0.4 kilometers to go here? Daniel's on the front, Modi's right behind him, and Luis. We've got Frank in the mix. We've got Casey. This is coming down 300 meters to go. This is where we're going to see the dig, and you're seeing Modi give it right there. 900 equalized watts coming around the corner. There's a little bump in the road, up out of the saddle, digs into the sprint. 200 kilometers to go. It's Modi's on the front. He's got Daniel and Casey right on his heels, but Modi's going to hold it. Dig, 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 and he comes across the line with Jen and Casey and Daniel not too far behind. So that was the race, my friends, and that is one of of 4 races, and that's kind of their warm-up here. So here's the replay. Modi digs in with about 0.4 kilometers to go, knows he has to come around that corner with lots of speed, continues to dig in. I think at this point it was like 900 equalized watts digging, and you can see in his face coming up out of the saddle, driving as much power to the pedals as he can. You can see on the overhead view that if he just had a little bit more road, some of his teammates would have come up behind him, and he might have been overtaken by Jenna or Casey. So here we are. Casey, how did that play out for you compared to the early zones?
Executed really well, actually. Moti just got a little bit too far away. The comeback kid got me slingshot. I think it was past Luis. Jen right on my wheel, coming right through. So it worked out well. Moti took that one. Well played by him.
Well, congratulations on that. Nice race, Modi. Let's check in. And that was a long dig effort there at the finish line. Talk me through what your strategy was there.
So we had the numbers, and it seemed like a smart choice to go in sort of like rocket stages. And Luis caught us with Comeback Kid, went off a little ahead, picking up the pace. Then Daniel launched right when we came through the line, and I knew he was going to do that. So I was able to sort of jump on through, hop on his wheel, and get about 5 seconds a good draft, which is all you need to get a gap. And then I kept the power on during the descent. So it was a good victory, all about teamwork.
Well, we do know you had a new rider in the L race, and I know that Cognition is definitely recruiting riders, and we saw Luis be very integral and take a couple stage wins in earlier Omniums on Tuesday. Good luck to you here. What are we going to see here? We've got 3 laps, Temple Run, 14.4 kilometers, uncrashable as an ability, a wind at your back, a razor's edge, quantum shift, and wind. How do you see all those impacting this race?
Oh, a lot of echelons, a lot of drafting, a lot of teamwork. It's going to be tough. 3 laps is a lot on Temple Run, so we'll see how it plays out. I'm excited.
Well, did you study what happened in the earlier races? Did you have a chance to go back?
Do that today. I wish I could have. I caught bits and pieces in between classes, but I didn't have a chance to do replays. So I feel like I'm flying blind, but we've done this track before.
No.
We've got good numbers of Cognition riders, so it should be good.
All right. Well, good luck to you. I'll let you get back into the team chat so you can do it. And let's check in with Jenna here. Jenna, it sounds like you were right on Casey's wheel. I know you guys are compadres, and I know you've got your dad is Frank in here. We've got a number of riders, but Temple Run kind of feels like it might be your course. It reminds me of Rocky Mountain that you love so much.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that actually. I think it's really true. We were just talking about the crosswinds coming into play here. So drafting could be really important, especially since it's so long. But I'm excited about this one for sure. You're absolutely right. I think it's pretty similar to Rocky Mountain.
Well, one of the things, good luck to you. We've just got about 40 seconds to go. One of the things that we did see here in the earlier racing was that wind come into play. We did see there are some AI riders that came in and brought some of the groups back to the front. So it'll be interesting to see how those dynamics play out. But wind at your back is a good one to compensate the wind at the headwind if you're making a break. So we'll see how these riders play out for it. We've got Frank here, 15 seconds to go. I'm not going to come to you, Frank. I'm going to let you stay focused. But right right now. We've got Modi, Casey, Jennifer, and Frank, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 seconds before we go out of the gate. Will it be a fireworks of power-ups in the beginning, or will people save them? Because 3 laps, that is a long race. We will see how they play these power-ups. So coming out of the gate, as you can imagine, you've got the cognition riders here, Luis with Frank and Kayla together. So this is coming together nice. Doesn't seem like anybody is dropping their power-ups. This is a different strategy that we've been seeing evolve over time, where we were seeing some of the teams use the tactic where they would drop their power-ups, try to make an early break, make some of the other teams respond and dump their power-ups. But in these longer races, people have been a little bit more, shall I say, stingy with their power-ups. They're trying to hang on to them and use them when absolutely necessary, and maybe wield them in times when they've made someone else sort of dump their power-ups where they don't have anything left, and then they're left holding a little bit of an advantage in their pocket, a little ace in their pocket, if you will. So right now, Jennifer on the front with Kayla on her wheel, a nice little peloton forming. And as Jenna said, when you have the crosswinds, you can tuck into the left and right hand side of a rider to avoid the wind. So I always say you want to be where the wind is not. So if the wind is a headwind, you want to be behind someone. I have a few people that I ride with that are wonderful billboards to hide behind. But here they are changing lanes, making sure that they're hanging on to that draft. And here we are on board with Kayla, 173 on her equalized heart rate. Here's Casey's view, making those lane changing positions. You can see one hand on the keyboard, and with Uncrashable as an ability, you're not going to fall down if you bump into another rider, but you do end up taking a little bit, losing a little bit of your speed, and you can't phase through them the way that you can phase through riders when you are having quantum shift as an ability. So that's why when you're watching the first race in the Omnium, a different ability is turned on, and it changes the dynamic of the race. And you can see the wind, depending on these riders have a way to set their views to see which direction of the wind. There's a compass that they can set here. And right now you can see Modi and Jenna side by side. You can see their views here. Modi right now taking on the wind, Jenna smartly tucking in behind Casey, making sure that she is protected in the peloton for as long as possible. And what these riders need to do, I mean, it's pretty early, but we did see a group fraction, and we do see that Kayla's a couple seconds back and Daniel's a couple seconds back. So those guys have to actually make a decision if they're going to use their power-ups to come back to join the group, or if they're going to let those AI riders catch them and use the bots. Because we did see in the earlier racing some of the people making the decision if they didn't make that lead group, because it's a long race and those legs can get tired. So sometimes you're making the decision, do I want to close the gap? Do I want to get back to the front group? Or I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to sit back with these AI riders and let them pull me up the hill. You can see here Casey up out of the saddle here. He can see that Modi's got a 4-second lead on him, does not want to have Modi get away from him. This is a good spot for Modi to get away while the others are keep climbing. He might be able to crest over the top and get to the flat before these other racers and maybe open up a little bit more of a gap. But 3-4 seconds is not a ton when you have the likes of Casey, Jennifer, Frank to all work together to not let Modi get away. So what you do know is that Luis isn't going to be doing any work. He's going to let his teammate go up the way, and he's going to let the other racers that aren't on his team try to close that gap. And it looks like Frank is the one that is making the decision right now on the front, taking his turn in the wind. Jenna behind her, he's maybe helping her close that gap, and then she'll probably take a turn, but it is coming down 1 or 2 seconds here, and they are about to make connection here and benefit from that draft. Man, I that feeling of like, gosh, I only have to dig for a little bit longer and then I can relax the legs ever so slightly. But we all know that when you are chasing to make connection and get into Modi's draft, he's not easing up. He's still 350 equalized watts. You can see Frank here, trying to take advantage of the draft. But all of these riders are keeping the pedal down even on the descent. So there's no rest in this race because these riders want to find every advantage that they can. So their speed is going up, but they're working. You can see Frank on the front just had 560 equalized watts. Now, when we're talking about the watts, everybody's power curve is normalized to be that their FTP effort, their 20-minute max effort is 367. So when you see that magic 367 number, you know that that's just their max effort for what they could hold for 20 minutes. In a 14.4 kilometer race that they're going to need to give that, they're going to need to figure out how they can conserve and not spend all of that. And then when there's the attacks coming, like Modi was doing 600 equalized watts to get away, they're trying to match that. And that physiological hammering, it's like a punch in the nose where you where someone just digs in and you have to answer, and then you have to try to recover from that. And look at Jenna here, has got dropped off the back here by just a couple seconds here. She's chasing back and she's made connection. She did not want to lose that front group. Casey there in the front with Modi and Jenna coming saying, no, guys, I'm not going to let you get away. We've seen this. We saw this play out on Tuesday, actually, the same racers in this T zone where they're going to get really familiar with each other's tactics, and allegiances and alliances are going to be made because, Casey, Team X, he doesn't have any riders in the mix right now, but he does have friends. He has a friend in Jenna. Jenna's proven that she can be counted on to work with Casey to try to thwart off the team cognition, because in CVRcade, teamwork matters so much. It is not enough to show up at a race. You have to, figure out how to work with people and who's going to play and whose wheel you can take and whose wheel you don't want to take. That's for sure. And you can take a look here at the leaderboard right now. We've got Modi, Casey, and Jennifer, and then Luis in fourth. And this is if everybody finished in this particular position. So we're coming around this corner. We're going to come to the start-finish banner, and it's going to be 1 lap down, 2 to go. That's right, 1 lap down, 2 to go. So you can see them all changing position here on the overhead, trying to get on the inside corner to shorten that distance as much as possible. And you'll see that as they climb up the hill, they'll be, chasing the draft with each other and then taking that inside line to try to make the course as short as possible. So you'll be seeing that. And when that happens, those are little times where the peloton positions shake up a little bit, because as you slide across the lanes, your avatar slows down ever so slightly. And if you haven't ridden the game, you don't know that. And so what can happen is on those lane changes, sometimes you'll see the positions take place. So when people are changing lanes, they also need to be thinking about their peloton position, because you want to stay not in the front, but you don't want to get spit off the back because you lose the draft and you've delayed your move. And then maybe someone's in the lane in front of you and you bump them and you can't find your way back into the peloton. Someone's not going to be someone actually has to let you in, just like out on the road where you have to communicate like, hi, may I come in? Yes, you may. And it's not always that polite. So here they are out on course. We know that Team Cognition is talking. We know that Team CVRcade is talking. I'm not sure if Casey here that we see is in audio channel with it. He is in an audio channel. Yes, he is. Okay. Aha. Well, then that makes a lot more sense, because on Tuesday you weren't in an audio channel. Haha. You've got it. Yep. Good job. So now he can kind of get something coordinated. I think he was communicating via me. He was like telling Jenna to go, waving his hand. And so maybe he's having a great conversation with some friends along with some music here. So Daniel right now on the front, taking on the win, 400 equalized watts. Frank makes his way to answer that, does not want to, he's matching those watts. Frank is 500 equalized watts. This is like, there's a little bit of a dig happening here, folks. 600 equalized watts. Frank has dropped a power up, razor's edge there. And he is just dancing away here, just saying, come catch me if you can. Razor's edge makes you super aerodynamic. And right now they are facing a headwind. So it's one way to cut through the wind, to accelerate, to get a little bit of a gap. And it looks like Jenna is just about 3 or 4 seconds behind him. Luis 2 seconds behind, and it looks like we've got Casey dropping. Oh, was that Casey? Oh, Jennifer's dropping her power up here, trying to make connection. Does make that connection. She has her razor's edge, slingshots around Frank, and then gets to the front of the pack. So a 1-2 punch here from the CVRcade riders. Frank makes an attack, gets a few seconds up the road. Then Jenna matches power up for power up, leaving Modi 3 or 4 seconds behind. He's going to need to answer that 400 equalized watts, 500 equalized watts, 184 on his heart rate here. He's got Luis in there, but Luis has dropped back a little bit. So it's now Modi has to make up those 2 or 3 seconds here. But will Frank and Jennifer let him right now? So it does. He does make that connection, and Casey is just a few seconds further back from that with Luis and Daniel as well. Daniel's a few more seconds back. So right now we've got Modi and Casey. This is their view side by side. Casey 4 seconds back from the front 3 here. Modi, Jennifer, and Frank in the front. Casey trying to close it up. You can see up the way here on the right hand side is Casey's view. He can see the riders up the way, and Modi is saying, I am going to stay well over 367. I'm 400 equalized watts. I have the lowest heart rate in this front group, and I am ready to dig it in. I'm going to match those attacks because he knows that Frank just spent some energy. He knows that Jennifer has spent some energy. So this is a time where he closes the gap and he carries through. So he continues to punch at the front to try to tire them out, because if he just comes in and sits in and starts drafting, he's also giving them a rest, right? So he needs to make them work after they're tired. So everybody is working really tired. And it's sort of like, I remember a friend of mine said, the person who gets to the finish line the most exhausted, but with just like you've timed your exhaustion perfectly when you come across the line here. So we're back on board with Casey, just 3 seconds back from Jennifer and Modi. Luis is about 6 seconds back from Casey. So this is getting stretched out. Luis and Frank and Daniel all together. So those 3 are in the chase position, but it's only split up by 10 seconds between the lead and the chase group. And it looks like Casey is just 2 or 3 seconds here closer. Yep, he said, I'm closer to the lead group than I am to the chase pack. My decision is to go. So he digs and he drops his razor's edge power up. He comes around. So what can happen? This happened to me earlier. I did the same thing, Casey. I dropped razor's edge, but I bumped into a bot because I slid out of the lanes and I wasn't anticipating sliding out of the lanes, and I slammed in to a bot. That was painful. So when you activate your power-ups, one of the things that you're carrying all that speed, and you saw Casey just activate that perfectly, and then needing to execute a lane change so that he doesn't smash into the riders in front of him and lose all of that speed that he just worked so hard to get with combination of that razor's edge. So right now, Jennifer on the front, Modi is right there with her with Casey. Daniel is about 8 seconds back with Frank and Luis. So we've got that chase group behind, but Modi's getting that serious face, and we are just about halfway. Like, we're going to come down this hill around the corner of the Pantheon, and we're going to be coming across the start finish line. So we're almost, we're actually a little bit more than halfway through. We're just almost to 1 lap to go, 2 down, 1 to go. Here we are side by side, 2 of the racers here in the front group. And this is what it looks like. Their effort is costing them in terms of their heart rate, their physiological response to their effort. You can see in the nearby riders list, you can see that Modi 175, Casey 168. That's their heart rate. That's their equalized heart rate. So the max number in the game for anyone's heart rate is 200. So right now, Casey at 165, 175, kind of high tempo, I would imagine. And coming down, looks like Modi's also coming down a little bit. They are on the descent. Maybe they're all sort of deciding, okay, we're all going to conserve a little bit. We've got 1 more lap. Everyone's sort of looking around, seeing what they have. Maybe Casey and Jennifer are in conversation here. We've got Daniel about 8 seconds back here, 10 seconds back with Frank and Louise. So unless they can do something heroic. And let me tell you, with the combination of power-ups of Razor's Edge, of wind at your back, you actually can make up that 10-second gap with one lap to go. So these riders in the front, as they sort of let their heart rate settle back down a little bit, need to not soften up on the pedal, and they need to continue to press on. But they did take a good 30 seconds there to figure out if they were going to try to take a little bit of moment to recover and regroup before this last lap here. So one lap to go. We've got Casey in the front. If they finish in this position here, you can see that the leaderboard bounces around a little bit, but Casey, Modi, and Jennifer are the 1, 2, 3 spots, and depending how they finish here, will determine whether or not what they're carrying into the next race of the Omnium. We just saw the power up there dropped by Luis. He's trying to make a chase. You can see he's got within 5 seconds of that front group. He has come past Frank and Daniel, and has tried to bridge that gap to try to get up there and help his teammate on the front. He's within 5 seconds of that. So right now, though, the hard part is that Luis has to make up those 4 or 5 seconds with the wind, so he doesn't have any shelter. But it looks like Modi and Jennifer and Casey are also stretched out here. You can see Jenna side by side with Modi. Modi is trying to make a little bit of a dig, 400. I saw up to 500 equalized watts, and Jenna is matching that, trying to not letting him get away, but not necessarily tucking in right behind his wheel. So this is one of those things where I don't think Modi's going to let her get too comfortable behind his wheel and set in. And then Casey, he's just got his head down. He is like, okay, I raced earlier today. I'm doing everything I can. This is the most physical, grueling race of the Omnium today. I mean, Saturn is coming up, and that's pretty dang hard too, because Saturn is not forgiving. But Temple Run 3 laps here. This is just I think I raced this course. I raced the Omnium in the L zone earlier, and this one is a killer. And digging in here is going to cost these racers later, but it does have a 2-time multiplier. So there are a lot of points on offer, and they do matter. So right now, Modi on the front, 190 equalized heart rate. Jenna, 198, and Casey, 188, dropping a little bit further back. But if Luis can bridge up to Casey and maybe conserve a little bit, and maybe the two of them can work together, maybe together they can close down the gap and not let Modi and Jennifer get away. You can see here, Luis is 189 on his heart rate, 400 equalized watts. He's got that wind blowing in his face, and I don't know if he's saving his power up or if he already used the wind at his back. I did see him use the razor's edge, which is really great in the wind because it makes you more aerodynamic. You have less surface areas because you're thin, so you can cut through that wind a little bit easier. Modi here has gapped Jenna by 3 or 4 seconds here, so he has just not let up, and Jenna now drops her power up and says, no, I'm not going to let you get that gap on me. So she drops the wind at her back and comes trying to close down that gap, trying to get back to Modi. It's just 3 seconds here that she has, and she's digging. You can see that high cadence work on her legs. She's digging in, and she can see Modi. All you have to do, come on, Jen, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and then you can relax. Not really. Then you can ease off a little bit. Look at her head down. These two racers are absolutely digging in and turning themselves inside out. And then a power up gets dropped by Modi. He said, no, you don't. I want it more. I'm going to use it here because I'm going to continue. This is the part of the race where they come to the top. They come under the waterfall. The course flattens out a little bit. You can pick up some speed here. You can open up the gap to the chase group. Jenna you can see the speed here, 53 kph, and Jenna 38. So while they're driving the watts to their pedals, and he used that power up, it allowed him to gap out on her by 6 seconds. He used the razor blade. He was able to gap at the perfect moment. So when you talk about using the power-ups and when you time them, timing them there at the top of the hill was one way that he was able to gap. He saw Jenna coming to close. He didn't want Jenna to be there. He was on the flat, and he knew that that would also help open up a gap because the speed differential of those still climbing, Casey was still climbing, and Jenna was just coming up close to him, and he knew she was tired. He knew that that was the time to attack while she was carrying those fatigue in while she was carrying that fatigue in her legs. But so now that has come out to about 12 seconds, 1.4 kilometers to go. If everyone finished in this position here, you can see in the leaderboard, it'd be Modi on top, Jennifer in second, and Casey in third, and Luis in fourth, and then the other cognition rider further down the way. So right now, Modi in first place, 177. Man, your heart rate recovers really fast. He was just at like 190 something, and now he's back down to 177. That is fitness, my friends. That is fitness. When you can recover down to a high tempo. He doesn't look like he's recovered, but his heart rate tells a different story. His heart rate has come down from that massive effort that gave him that huge gap. So he needs to just hold on to it. Now, this is not of course, here we do have uncrashable on, so he doesn't have to worry about any of those obstacles. He doesn't have to worry about the corner speed. All he has to do is mind the gap and not let Jennifer and Casey come together. But further down the way is Luis, and Luis is just about 7 or 8 seconds back from Casey. So there's a chance maybe that Luis might be able to do something here. I did see him drop one of the power-ups. I don't know if he used all of them. I don't think he used quantum shift, but he might have used both. Ah, there it is. There's the wind at his back. I knew he had one more, and I thought he could use it. So right now, I believe out on course, they have a little bit of a tailwind. I could be wrong about that. I don't have the compass. The riders have the compass here. So wind at your back. Nope, he's got a little bit of headwind. I'm checking it out here, but he does help. And here we are, Modi in the final 200 meters. He doesn't need to turn himself inside out for a showy sprint. He just needs to come across the line. He can conserve and save that sprint for another race in the Omnium. He's probably going to need it in Saturn down the way, or even at the start of DMV. Nice job, Modi. Congratulations on that finish. Now, Jenna also fighting for second place. Well fought battle there by Jenna. And in the end, it was that attack on the top of the hill there that Modi did that she just wasn't able to match. And then Casey, who did race earlier today, comes across third here. As well, racing, and then Luis will come in fourth place. So those were the top four. Further down, we'll see Daniel finish as well, also team cognition, but nice racing. It did spread out a little bit. We did have some attacks, and here is the replay. Modi coming across the line on that final 100 meters here, knowing he has it, knowing he doesn't have to sprint. He had enough of a gap. He spent his effort at the top of Temple Run and opened up that gap. And here was Jenna coming across the line, who spent wisely, secured her second, just didn't have it in that final attack here. Hey, Modi, well executed there on that third lap on the top. Talk me through that race.
Oh, that was a lot of work, but very rewarding. Jenna and Casey and Daniel and Luis and Frank, we all were together for like the first lap and a half and then some. And then I got a gap with myself, and then Casey and Jenna caught me, and then got another gap, and Jenna and I dropped Casey, and then we worked together to stay away until we stopped working together. And rather than sprint, Jenna has a great sprint, so rather than waiting till the end, I knew I was holding one more power up than she was. She used her last one to catch me on the climb. And right when she was at like her maximum effort in catching, I used both of mine and figured it was now or never. And that kind of settled things over the top and was able to get some recovery on the descent.
Well, congratulations on a great finish, carrying this into Dark Matter Velo, a completely different type your cards. How this? I mean, this is a completely different race than Temple Run with that work there. We can still see the replay here of you and Jenna working together. I'm not sure we're going to see that same cooperation here on Dark Matter Velo, but what are we going to see on Dark Matter Velo? Are you prepared? Have you done the practice? Do you know the lap speeds? What's your thoughts here?
Yeah, I love this course. It'll be a real change of pace after Temple Run. And we've got some wind on course, so even though we know our speeds, we got to watch it because it can get a little fast on some of the downwind legs. But the name of the game is don't crash and ride consistently and pay attention, which is tough to do after a race like that. So I'm excited. I haven't done this sport in a while.
Yeah, it hasn't been in the mix for a while. Well, good luck to you. I'll let you get back in with your teammates. Let's check in with Jenna, our second place winner on that race, who's also sitting in second place for the Omnium. Jenna, Dark Matter Velo. You ready?
Yes, who is right? I think I raced this before it was revamped, and I remember infinite crashing. Or I raced one of them that has these like lane things. Little worried, but I've got some tips from the team, so we'll see if I can stay in speed.
Well, good luck to you. This is a mental race. We've also got Casey, who's also there in third place. Good luck to you, Jenna, who knows this course. You feeling confident coming into this course with the number of times you've raced on it, Casey? I think you've raced this course for probably 6-8 months.
Yeah, I know what I have to do. It's whether I can do it or not. Don't wreck, and you're good.
All right. Well, you got 10 seconds. I'm going to let you get your head back in the game. Don't wreck, and you're good. So they also need to watch their speed. If you are watching, you can see the particles floating around. And what that is that is a tailwind right now. So they have the benefit of a tailwind. And when they have that their speed out of the gate is faster. And they do have to watch entering those lanes, what speed. They need to slow down. We did post a video of one of our master technicians talking about this lane. You have the disabled lanes. You have different lanes that you can choose. And each one of these individual lanes has a different speed at which you can't exceed or you will crash. But you can slide out and you will slide into another lane. But there are some lanes that have an extra opening where you can slide out, and it's all about 1/100th of seconds sometimes on this race. And it's fractions of speed. Is it, 33.9? Did you slow down in time? And really minding the wind, because you do, as Modi said, you do get some push from the wind. And even though you slow down enough, you tend to accelerate with that tailwind. So with 10 laps on this course, we have a 2.5 multiplier. It is, whoa, and Jeff goes down. Jeff, I didn't see you first enter this race. Jeff, the Velocity Vixen rider here coming in, who has raced earlier today in the K zone, coming out for some fun, trying his hand. That's what's so wonderful about this racing. You can kind of do one race that you love and race with others, or you can do the whole Omnium. Frank here on the front with Kayla just 1 second behind, and Casey just a couple seconds back. So Frank also has been racing on this course, a master technician. He knows how to race this course. He knows the dynamics of wind. He knows when he needs to slow down. So Frank on here. We've got Kayla right behind Frank. Teammates here in the game, working together here on course. There's a rider in the lane. They know they need to navigate around the rider. There's a lot of confidence in the way that they ride as well. So you know what lane you want to be in. You know the speeds. And right now they're staying in the same lane, which, obviously you can get a draft. So the drafting might be a disadvantage with a tailwind, because you're constantly needing to change the input on your legs. So as she gets closer to Frank, the draft gets greater. And if she's benefiting from a tailwind, that can also affect her speed. So that's a lot of confidence here. So side by side, Frank and Casey here. Right now, Casey 5 seconds back from Frank. This is a course that it's about making up fractions, and and staying calm. I mean, I think that's the thing. Like the mistake I always make is I want to push harder. I want to push harder. And sometimes it's not always about pushing harder. It's about sort of staying on the line in terms of like your excitement level and your energy level, and making sure that you don't get over amped, because that's when you start making mistakes. So even if you have, if each you're trying to like gain half a second every lap, and then, try to not run out of time by closing the gap just ever so slightly on every single lap, is keeping that calm. And you can see the concentration on Frank's face, and he's just effortlessly changing the lanes. Kayla is still right there with him. There is a little bit, it looks like a little congestion he's going to be facing in the lane. So this is where it can get a little bit dicey. You have to select they probably have favorite paths of which they go, and they're talking to each other about what lanes they want to be in. But as all these other riders, whoa, close one, Kayla, comes through. Sometimes when a rider crashes and they respawn, it can actually respawn specifically at the time that you happen to be going through, and it can wreck you. So you do have to be also paying attention to what the other riders are doing on course here. But it's pretty flawless here by Frank and Kayla and Casey. Pretty flawless moves here. We did see a couple crashes by Jeff early on. We didn't see Modi wreck either. So he's actually probably just playing this course a little more conservatively, because you can scoop up more points by going slower than if you try to overcook it and you make mistakes and you go too fast. So it's almost like a strategy of like, hey, you know what? If Modi knows he's not going to catch Frank, who's 15 seconds up the way, he might, that face, she's like, no, oh, Kayla, oh, that stinks. But Casey slams into the back of Kayla when she respawns. Oh, that was exactly what I was talking about earlier. She didn't mean to do that. She crashed, and then, or maybe she did. I don't know. Did we see a new tactic out on course? Maybe I can start a new scandal. The scandal was Kayla wrecked on purpose to block Casey. And that's what I'm going to say. No, I don't think that's what happened, but it could be what happened. I don't know. Frank is on the front here, and he takes it across the line. Congratulations to Frank. Casey comes around here. Kayla was well ahead of Casey, so Casey's going to come around and take second place, but he does overtake Kayla, who did have that crash. She wouldn't have crashed on purpose when she was in second. I'm just making stuff up. That's a lie. Don't want to start a scandal. And then Modi comes across the line in fourth. And as I was saying, when you're racing against Frank and you're racing against Kayla, and they're 15 seconds up the way, the last thing you want to do is make a mistake like Kayla did. But if you make a mistake because you overcook it, and then you fall further back down the line. So Modi played that safe and conservative. So let's check in with, you can see Frank here coming across the line. Frank, not a surprise here. You're just always killing it on this course. How is the wind affecting you?
Wind definitely have an effect, but you can play it to your advantage. It's kind of like ping pong. One tactic in ping pong is just to wait for the other guy to make a mistake and just return everything. And that's kind of what I was doing. Kayla kept coming back up on my wheel, and I was just kind of trying to bait her into pushing it just a little bit too much, risking it for the biscuit. But she didn't get the biscuit, so that was a lot of fun.
Well, I did notice that you guys were riding awfully close together, and then I thought, well, she's going to also have the wind pushing her, and then she's going to have the draft, which makes it even harder to time the speed and the braking and stuff. So I didn't know if that was a strategy, or whether you guys were just having fun racing together as teammates to try to mess with each other.
Oh, no, there was no teamwork in that one. We were just seeing who could take the win, and I go in the outside lanes to sort of have the open shot, but it also made her want to sort of get ahead of me. And it's really, really hard to not overcook it when you're doing it, because you're trying to go a little faster than the other guy. And so a lot of fun. It was a shame that she went down. I think it was good right there at the end. We saw Susan right at the end risk it for a biscuit and crash, 10 meters from the line. Trying to get in front of Louise. So it's just a lot of fun. That dynamic is just great.
Well, congratulations on that course. We are coming into Saturn, which you also are pretty well versed in. 4 laps. How are your legs after? Yeah, no.
All
Okay.
teammates, go, go. It's your lane, not mine. Can't help.
All right. Well, good luck, Frank. I'll let you get back in the comms with your teammates. But we've got 2 inertia power-ups, 2 weightlifted, and on Saturn, and we don't have any abilities, which means that folks can crash. They're going to need to draft Modi right now. You are in the top spot. 1 minute and 20 seconds to go. What do you need to do in this race, and how are your teammates going to help you stay on top?
So 3 of us to go off the front. And like one of you could.
Oh, I think he's talking. We will let him continue. We don't want to reveal any of that. He's in team chat right now. So we've got Modi, number 1, Casey 2, Frank from that last race, Dark Matter Velo with the 2.5 multiplier has moved up, and Casey in second. Casey, 45 seconds. Any words of wisdom?
This one will get interesting. Power-ups will come into play. It's gonna be tough. That last one was fun. I yelled at Kayla and said, "You can't let Frank beat you," and then she wrecked. So I feel bad. I think I prompted Kayla to wreck.
Oh, well, you know what? Her look on her face was priceless. There's a couple good memes coming out of these races. So just over 15 seconds to go. I'll let you get your head in the game. Good luck to you. As Casey mentioned, there are 2 inertia and 2 weightlifted. The way those work, weightlifted makes you 30 kilograms lighter for 10 seconds, and inertia allows you to hold your speed that you're using, that you are, how fast you're going for that amount of time. I didn't do a good job of explaining it. It's a little bit late for me on the East Coast. Okay, so here we are out of the gate. Frank on the front, who said, I don't have anything. I'm going to let them go. So maybe he's putting a little bit of digger on here. He's got Jeff Rooney coming in on his heels here, and the peloton is shaping up nicely here on the front. We've got Frank, Jeff, Louise, Modi, Kayla, Jennifer, Kinjal. Everybody is all together, a little bit strung out, but making this front group from front to back. Frank and to Casey, they're all within 1 second of each other here. You can see some of them stepping out around the side because we did have was that a brake check? I'm not sure. It looks like we did have some deceleration there out on course. Kinjal here in the front, side by side look here of Frank and Casey here trying to get back. Frank drops a power up here, 600 equalized watts here, getting the weight lifted, trying to make it back. He makes it back to the front here, slingshots to the front, 178 on that heart. He also used the inertia here. Now he can just, he did the 1-2 punch here where he did the first power up to get up to speed, and then he held this. So he's going 56, 57 kilometers per hour, and he can take a little bit of a breather here. And it was enough to open up a gap of 4 seconds. So that nation there of using the weight lifted to get that speed so that you're at the max speed that you can possibly go, and then hit inertia. And doing it on the first lap before isn't a bad idea either, because I was racing this earlier and I saved one of my inertias. I'm like, wait a minute, I should easily be going 53 kph right now, and I couldn't get past 49. And I was like, dang it, I hate to use inertia at 49. I like to use inertia in the 50s, and then take a little bit of a vacation for 10 seconds. Here we are. This little part here can be tricky for people to navigate. It is one of the first corners that you do significantly need to slow down. It looks like Luis has gone down in that corner, but Frank, Modi, Casey, Kinjal make it through just fine. And then they have the little loop-de-loo, which is another spot where they do need to watch their speed. And then they'll come to the chicane eventually here, where they will come across for lap 1. You can see the power up here on the climb here of weightlifted. It's a good place to use it. And you can see a couple folks, Jennifer's using it, Kayla's using it. You can see in the nearby riders list all of the power ups being activated here. Modi sees that Frank is 6 seconds seconds up the way. And even if Frank finishes in front of him, it looks like the scoreboard is telling me whether, whoa, Jennifer goes down on one of those spots. That's all right, Jen. Spin up, spin up, spin up, spin up. But not too much because you're in the chicane, so stay under 30. Here we go. Casey up out of the saddle, digging in, trying to connect with Modi, 6 seconds ahead. And then Frank just about 3 seconds ahead of Modi. So you can see here, Casey drops his power, kind of mirroring that same thing that Frank did, dropping the weight lifted, kicking up the speed, 50, 52, 53 kph. And then does he do it? Does he? Ba-boom, he does. There's the 1-2 punch. He's going to carry that inertia through, trying to get back to Modi. And I think it's going to be enough to do it. Once that, whoa, what just happened to Frank there? Oh my goodness, he just took a wipeout. Oh my gosh, did he change lanes? Did he slide out in the corner? That was a weird crash. I can't even tell what happened here. So you can see here, Casey is closing the gap on Modi and Frank. And did he overlap the wheel? It's kind of far down the way. It's hard to see what happened. Maybe he slid out in the corner a little bit. Oh, it looks like there was a lane change, whether that was a slide or a mistaked move. But man, I did that earlier. I changed lanes when I shouldn't have. So I'm not sure if it was intentional lane change I did or if he slid out. I'm thinking he changed the lane. So right now, Casey in the position here takes the first spot because Frank has dropped back in this race. So Frank, if he wants to, he's in third position right now. If he does want to win the Omnium, he needs to get himself back to the front. But does he have it in his legs? He's got his friend Jeff up the way on a different team, but Jeff is just sort of a rogue rider. He might be able to help Frank. Kayla's there to help Frank. We know that Kayla will be able to help Frank, but Modi, 400 equalized watts, starting to put a dig in here. Side by side, here's what we're looking at. We've got Modi and Casey, each of them here working hard. We just saw Casey drop the 1-2 punch that Frank did earlier, and they each have 2 weight lifted. They start with 2 weight lifted and they have 2 inertia as well. So they are probably counting each other's cards as well. They're looking at each other. Ooh, Modi, 600 equalized watts. They're just coming up over the bump here. But we're coming again to the corner that takes a little bit of time. I mean, these guys are experienced riders, but they know when to slow down. They know how not to crash on these corners. There are some riders that are still learning that, so they kind of are making it look easy. But up this little bit, a bit of a bump, coming around the corner to the chicane, to the finish line for lap number 2. And once they get across that start-finish banner, they will have 2 laps to go, and half the race will be over. And right now, the gap to the chase group with Kayla is kind of in the middle by herself there. The gap to Kayla is a good 20 seconds. So Kayla dropped back, and then Jeff and Frank a little bit further from that. They might have decided they're not going to go, but Kayla is still working, it appears, to try to get, she's up out of the saddle. She's like, you know what? I am in 4th right now. If I finish in this position, I'm in 4th. So I don't want Luis to beat me. I want to get as many points as I can. So although Kayla might not be able to close the gap, Modi drops his, Casey drops his. We'll talk about Kayla in a minute, but whoa, there goes the weight lifted, and then again comes up to speed, locks it in at over 50, which is the way to do it. That's the way to do it when it's over 50, and then needs to kind of carry through and pedal through. So Modi mounts that attack, puts on a gap on Casey of about 6 seconds, 7 seconds here, and Casey had to answer and drop one of his power-ups. I have lost my computer. Oh, I'm back. I'm back here. So just went black for a minute, but I am still with the broadcast. So you can see there that Kayla used her inertia at 53 kph. She is mounting, maybe she's going to close that down 15, 20 seconds to Casey. I've seen Kayla down more, but side by side here, Modi and Casey trying to get back to that. But it looks like Casey's down 200 equalized watts. Casey might not be answering that, because right now, if Casey maintains his 2nd position, he will be 2nd on the night by 12 points, it looks like. I don't think Casey, this is his preferred zone. This is Modi's preferred zone. So Modi has a little bit of an advantage on the leaderboard here. So if Casey just kind of holds his position here, I think it'll be enough points he will stay ahead of Frank even with the differential. And win the bracket season here, we're taking the best 6 scores over the Omniums before we get to the final grand finale, where we're going to have seeded heats where racers are going to be seeded by their best 6 races in these three races. So every time Casey comes out to play, even if it's for a zone, he's capturing some points where it can be maybe this is his best one, maybe the one from earlier is his best one. He's increased chances of getting a high placement in that seeding for our final playoff round. So 2.3 kilometers to go for Modi. Again, he is 15 seconds now on Casey, and then Kayla has opened up a 10-second gap on Luis. So Modi is letting his legs spin out a little bit here. He's making sure he comes through the chicane at a comfortable speed, being conservative, because a crash now would give Casey an opportunity to dig in and close it if Casey really wanted to. So he comes back speed and digs in 700 equalized watts, 800 equalized watts, boom. He's not backing down. He is still digging 400 equalized watts. He knows that he's just got 1.8 kilometers to go on this course, making sure that Casey doesn't get any ideas, man. You don't even try to catch me. I'm out of here. Casey's like, well, I'm still going to work hard because all of this counts. And you know what? You could still make a mistake. And you know what? If you make a mistake, I want to be ready to pounce on it. I am going to protect my position, but I'm also going to be prepared for an opportunity. And then Kayla, 20 seconds back. And it looks like Louise has crashed. Oh, the hard brat. Let me tell you, Louise, don't feel that chicane will get you. I think today, after myself racing on this course for 6 months, just finally figured out how to navigate that chicane. So don't you worry. You're still solidly in 4th place. It's currently on 5th place of the night. So if you can maintain that position and not let Frank get past you. Frank's already in 3rd position. So you're keeping some points off of the board for Frank, but he's in 3rd. Now, Kayla putting on the pain face here, making sure she's just bringing the game. She's bringing it here. Here's your leaderboard. We've got Modi, Casey, and Frank, 1, 2, 3. And if they finish in this position, it's just, as I said, I think it's just about 12 or 13 points between Casey and Modi. And then Kayla's in 4th place. So Kayla would have to get 12 more points. How would that work? I am awful with the math, and I don't even want to try because then there'll be a meme to make fun of me, but that's okay. Modi here coming up this last little bump, 0.7 kilometers to go. He's got a bit of a turn to navigate, which he knows he's given himself enough cushion that he can really go through those corners conservatively. Watching his speed, 38, 39, going to need to slow down again to make sure he doesn't crash in this next corner, carries it through. And, this is some of the best racing here that I'm seeing. Like, we saw these guys go toe-to-toe on Tuesday. We're seeing on Thursday. I'm not sure if these guys will be racing on Saturday, but we'll be broadcasting more racing on Saturday. This is the 4th and final race. You're watching CVRcade. You see the 1 and 2 riders here. Modi's in 1st place on the left. Casey's in 2nd place on the right. Modi's just about to finish the line. 0.3 kilometers to go. He can cruise through the tricky chicane and not need to overcook it and come across the line before Casey. But Casey puts a last little dig in here, 400 equalized watts, because he knows it all matters. He can get these points for the bracketed season and try to get the best of his 6 scores. And Modi, he is sprinting for show. What's that? You drive for dough and putt for show. He even gives you a sprint at the end when he's got a 30-second gap. Well done, Modi. Team cognition, had a couple riders in the mix. Got an early, got it off the front there, executed his power ups, benefited from a crash early from Frank, and just kind of capitalized and seized on that opportunity to actually finish 1st in this race, which meant the difference of him being, I think, 3rd versus 1st. And then here comes Casey. coming across the line. Also solid racing in his second Omnium of the day. Second place for the race and second place for the Omnium tonight here. And if everyone finishes in the position that they are, Frank will take third. But right now we're on board with Kayla coming across through the chicane, coming through to the finish line on Saturn, up out of the saddle, giving us a good show, saying, I'm still going to give you some watts across the line. And it looks like Louise has crashed. But Kayla solidified her position in front of Louise, did not want to give any points to Louise. She takes fourth on the night, and she secured that fourth on the night by making sure Louise never caught her on this race. He did have a couple unfortunate crashes, but Kayla had to put those nails in the coffin to finish it for him. Well done, Louise. Nice job on that course. And then Daniel will be coming across the line. Here is Jenna as well, on board with Jenna on her fourth and final race, who she absolutely turned herself inside out on Temple Run, which was the longest course of the night. And she is also bringing across the line. Oh, I know that feeling, Jenna. It's okay. Just finish in front of your dad. Frank went down too. Oh my gosh, what happened? Were you guys just talking about dinner? Like what you're gonna have for dinner? You guys both at the same spot. Unusual course of events there. Having too much fun, probably in the team chat, talking about the beer and pizza you're gonna have after the race. Here's a replay here. Modi up out of the saddle again, had a 30-second gap on Casey, but still comes up out of the saddle. Gives us that sprint for show, and then a nice point there. Thumbs up for the win. Nice job to Modi. So this was an amazing night of racing. We started on Kayla's mountain bike course, Temple Run, Dark Matter Velo, and then Saturn. And this was one of those nights where each of these different races requires a different amount of skill and power. And with everyone riding equalized, it plays the different strength. Are you a more tactical rider? Are you more time trialist where you can just diesel it through and pound the pedals for a long time and match attacks? And we've seen these attacks play out. We've seen the use of power-ups happen in interesting ways. And knowing the competitors, you're starting to know who shows up for your zone. You're starting to know their tendencies and figuring out their weaknesses, figuring out, what your strengths are, whether it's tactics or power or how you're playing it. And Modi, you have figured out some really interesting things about your competitors. I'm not sure. Oh, are you talking? I'm not hearing you right now.
Yeah. Are you talking
there you
to me?
are.
Yeah.
I am. Yeah, were you talking to your teammates? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I was thanking them for the excellent cooperation. And even off the front, just the moral support, knowing that you've got two other people in the race wearing the same jersey, rooting for you and encouraging you on in-game audio is a wonderful feeling. So a big thanks to Daniel and Luis. They made that easier. They were encouraging me the whole time, and they're picking this up really quick. Saturn's a tricky course. I got lucky.
Well, you played your power-ups well throughout the night, and what I was saying while you were talking to your team there was that you're starting to know the nuances of the different riders that are racing against you, and also what their skill set is, so that you can play that to your advantage. So, we saw so much different gameplay. Right now, we're watching the replays and the highlights here. Frank started out on Saturn, dropping that combination of power-ups. We saw Casey match it. We saw you use it when you need to. So talk to me a little bit through just sort of how you're figuring out these nuances and how that's changing the way that you're executing your power-ups.
Well, at the front, Casey and Frank and I were off together for a while after Frank used his power-ups, and it's a little bit like counting cards, even though I've never really been any good at poker, because as you can tell from my suffer face, I'm not really good at feigning emotions. But you really have to watch closely what your competitors are doing, because everybody is using their power-ups, when not accidentally, pretty much optimally. So, when we were off with Frank, both Casey and I knew that we had an advantage if that group stayed together, because we were holding more power-ups than Frank was. And then when Frank crashed, he had a little accidental mishap, wheel overlap. It was down to me and Casey, and I got a gap, and to catch me, he had to burn one of his power-ups. So I knew that I was still holding one more than he was. So any little advantage that I could pursue was even a little bit more demoralizing to him, because he knew that I might be able to repeat it with a little bit less physical effort that he'd have to match with his legs. So, you know, we were over threshold for most of that race, but it's like playing high stakes poker while your heart's going 180 beats per minute. And you have to watch what everybody's doing really closely, and they're watching what I'm doing just as closely with respect to timing, attacks, power up use, and everything. So there's no resting the mind or resting the legs in Cade.
No, well, congratulations for another great finish here in Zone T, and congrats to Cognition and your teammates for showing up in force. And like I know we cheer each other on as well in our team chat. We're gonna check in now with Casey. Casey, so you're racing multiple omniums in a day. I'm still struggling with doing a couple in a week. How are you holding up?
I'm not sleeping very well because these get me so wound up I can't get to bed at night. But that hurt. I mean, we were just talking a little bit like if Frank wouldn't have wrecked, could we have done something? And we could have worried Moti, but he was right. He knew what we had for power-ups. Doing the second omnium of the day, he just had more than me in that last race. I gave it everything I could, and I've got nothing left. But he raced excellent. We had a lot of fun. We were in the team car tonight, so we were talking a lot with the CVR team and myself, and it was good. It's fun racing with Moti and those guys. They race well. We have a lot of fun. Unless somebody makes a mistake, it's just really who plays their cards right. And Moti was really spot on with that. I even at one point hadn't been paying attention, and I'm screaming in the team car, did he use a power up to catch you? Did he use a power up to catch you? Because I was I was taking inventory in my head of what he had left.
Yeah, there is definitely that inventory, and you start and you think that it's going to be easy to remember, but once your heart rate gets up and you start they start flying, it becomes a little bit more challenging here. We're watching some of the highlights here on Temple Run, the 3-lap course. How much did that suck out of your legs going into Dark Matter, knowing you had Saturn? Because it feels like you just gave it all.
Yeah, I knew what my powers were from earlier today, and then I basically matched that again the second time around. So, I'm holding, within 10 watts of FTP for that entire race, 20, 25 minutes. It hurts a lot. So it definitely fatigues you for the end, which I think gives Moti the advantage in these being his only race of the day. I've got a 5-mile run in me and a whole nother omnium, today. But I got to give a shout out to Luis too, because if Luis gets some of the bike handling skills down, he's going to be trouble. Because I think he wrecked at least 5 times in the last 2 laps. And I kept yelling at Kayla, "Don't let him pass you! Don't let him pass you!" And he'd wipe out again.
Yeah, no, I think because he's such a strong rider, and I feel like Luis and I might be like each other's spirit animals, because we just want it, and then we were like, oh wait, I got to slow down here, and I can kind of see the intensity in his racing and his strength, and once he sort of, I think, settles down to the mental part of the game a little bit more, which he's got great tutelage with Team Cognition to help him with that. He will. But I was like, Kayla's still working. She does not want Luis. She wants to keep that 4th position.
He's going to figure it out, and he's going to be trouble for the rest of us. One of the tips I'd give anybody is when you get into a race, you don't realize it, but you're going to hit 3 times harder. So you can practice it all you want, but when you go to attack or go hard around a corner in a race, you always overshoot it for about the first 3 weeks, because your adrenaline just pushes you a little further.
Yeah, that competitive idea of being on the line and not being overamped. So for sure. Well, congrats to you, Casey, and congrats to all the racers we had. Yeah, thanks for showing up and giving us a great show. Modi on top, Casey, Frank, Kayla, Luis, Jenna, Daniel, all of the riders that came out. Jeff came out to play in the bend. We're watching the replay here on Dark Matter Velo, where Casey's just smiling, having a really good time. He was, as he said, in the team car with the team CVRcade. Did have that unfortunate incident where Kayla wrecked in the last corner, slowed him down a little bit. But Ben, again, back on to here side by side with Frank and Casey on Saturn here. One of the races that had 2 times multiplier. It was 4 laps. They had 2 inertia and 2 weight lifted in that race. You can see here Frank used that one pretty early on, the combination of the inertia and weight lifted, so you can get up to speed pretty quick. Jenna did take herself out of the contention here with that early crash and wasn't able to make up the ground. Casey goes ahead and does that same combination where you get the weight lifted, you get up to speed, then you pop the inertia, and then Frank had that unfortunate crash, which I also had an unfortunate crash, so I feel for you, man. I know what that feels like. It's like, no! It is a mistake that can happen, but more likely to see it with me than with Frank, so I'm sure that's kicking him a little bit. Then Modi gives us a show right to the end, even though he had a big gap on Casey, and he comes across the line, giving us a nice show on Saturn to close out the night. And that is going to close out our night here on CVRcade World Cup Zone T. Congratulations to all of the riders. It's been a ton of fun. We will be back again on Saturday for more racing, I think at 7 a.m. Eastern time. So we'll check our Facebook page. If you like what you're seeing, you can follow us and tune in to see us every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday for more great racing on CVRcade. And I will plug tomorrow, Rise and Rip core class. If you want to ride and learn a little bit of the game, you can download the game right now and join me tomorrow. Even if you're on a keyboard, you don't even need to have a bike, and learn the dynamics of the game, learn how to draft, learn how to use the power-ups, and see how much fun this can be. So we'll see you on Saturday for more racing, and maybe we'll see you tomorrow in the Rise and Rip ride tomorrow morning. Until next time, I'm Beth. We'll see you later.
But no, Beth, yours goes crashing down. Determination, the suffering, the ability to... And she's unleashed everything in this attack. See just how much that win means to him. All the marvels. Kayla versus Allison, and to the line. Kayla Laguna takes the victory.